Captain America Winter Soldier is far more serious than The Dark Knight. In Dark Knight, it's trying so hard to be serious. In Dark Knight, it's speech after speech after speech after speech. I'm like, come on. All because there's an amazing performance in a film doesn't make it a great film. The Dark Knight is not the greatest comic book movie of all time. It's not. The Dark Knight is not a great film. The Dark Knight is not a great crime film. And because obviously this was trending on Twitter, people talking about, the greatest comic book movies of all time. And this is where I always start off. Whenever people say Dark Knight is the greatest comic book movie of all time, I'm like, okay, tell me the iconic Batman scenes. Better yet, whenever you say it's the greatest comic book movie of all time, you always post a Joker clip, a Joker gif, a line from the Joker. And I said, okay, that's all well and good. The Joker isn't the protagonist. the last night, unless things have changed, unless Joker has now changed from the clown prince of crime to the caped crusader or the Dark Knight, he isn't the protagonist. He's the antagonist. He's the villain. The protagonist is Batman. But every time anybody says anything about Dark Knight, it always pertains to Heath Ledger's performance and the Joker, and that is an amazing performance. One of the great acting performances that we've seen. It's superb. But the issue is that the performance is in a vacuum. The film is pretty much held together, and the only reason why you even watch the film or go to the film is because of the performance. So the issue here is, when you're making a film, any film, and for a film to be good, your plot is going to be good, your story is going to be good, but let's start with this, the simple thing, your protagonist. So this film borrows a lot from Michael Mann's Heat, because you see the shot where it's like from a bird's eye view following the truck. That is straight out of Heat, where you see the sound gets muted. That is straight out of Michael Mann's Heat. So it's obviously a homage to Heat. Imagine if in Heat, Al Pacino's character or De Niro's character spoke like they had a nuke inside their throats, looked stupid, and they were underdeveloped. Imagine that. Or imagine if you're watching Point Break, and in Point Break, you hardly see Keanu Reeves. He's not really doing much stuff, but all the focus is on Patrick Swayze. So you go to Dark Knight. First of all, in the first kind of third of the film, or the first 50 minutes of the film, he has the old suit, and his old suit is the bulky suit. But because the new suit is a lot thinner and smaller, Bale is a lot thinner in the old suit, so he actually doesn't fill it out as much as he did in Batman Begins, where he actually had to fill out the suit because it was bulky. So because he's so skinny and slim inside a bulky suit, he looks stupid. Because you watch that bang scene and you're like, hey, this looks stupid, because I can actually see the holes through the battlefield and everything. Like, what the heck? Then you have this new outfit, because the big thing is he can now turn his head, which is what previous Batman characters couldn't do. Sometimes in arts or films or so forth, all because you can do it doesn't mean you should. All because you can now make him turn his head doesn't mean that you should. And what you now saw was, it looked like if he was wearing a turtleneck, and it looked like if his cape was 5 times bigger than him. So again, he looks awkward. So imagine if you're watching Heat and Michael Mann is wearing a jacket that is about 5 times too big for him. And whenever Al Pacino or De Niro's character talks, they talk like there's literally a nuclear device in their throat and you can't hear anything that they're saying. There are times in this film where I don't know what the hell Batman is saying. I'm like, what the hell did this dude just say? And that is because, and this is the reality, Nolan never gave a damn about the Batman character. He cared about the story, the plot, and the stuff surrounding Batman. And this film was very much focused on developing the Joker character and really and enhancing him. So as I'm watching the film, I'm like, okay, this Joker, okay, it's great, it's really well developed and so forth. But I'm like, who's the protagonist? There's got to be the guy driving the story forward, because the protagonist can't be Joker. Please let the protagonist not be Joker. Harvey Dent is one of the protagonists, but he's like a side protagonist. The main hero has got to be Batman, because he is the hero. He's here to save the day. This is a superhero film, okay? And that is the biggest issue of The Dark Knight, is you're caught between two minds. Nolan is trying to make a crime film, but then he realizes, oh, this has to also be a comic book movie. So you're watching this and it's very serious. It's like crime, all that kind of stuff. It's supposedly transcending the genre. Then you hear Batman speak. Then you see Batman use his white goggles, and it looks like if I'm watching a video game. So at one point I'm watching like a serious crime film. At another point, I'm watching a video game as Batman is fighting all of the guys in that building. So it's schizophrenic. Either you want to be a full-on crime film, which means that you've got to completely change how Batman is done and so forth, or you make it a comic book film and you bring the dynamism and the excitement. Todd Phillips with Joker. Todd Phillips, no, I'm making a film. This isn't like a comic book movie with comic book things, and I throw in Batman here, I throw in a Harley Quinn here, and I throw in all of the comic book movie tropes. No. Like the one-liners, the action. No. This is just a film. And when you watch Joker from beginning to end, it's just a film. A character story, a film. But for Dark Knight, on one hand, you're like a crime film trying to be like Heat and Point Break. On the other hand, you feel like, oh yeah, I've got to take the comic book movie tropes, I've got to take the action scene, take the one-liners, take the set pieces and so forth. So it's schizophrenic. So, because here's the thing. If Dark Knight truly did what it was supposed to do, if Dark Knight truly transcended the genre, all films that followed afterwards would have been different. But afterwards, Avengers came, did its thing, and was a massive success. Captain America, and here's the thing, because I've already said that the Captain America trilogy just destroys the Batman trilogy. Captain America Winter Soldier is far more serious than The Dark Knight, and here's the reason why. It's far more serious and it's better. In The Dark Knight, how does the Batman character advance from what he was in Begins? How does he evolve? How does he move forth? Second thing, he's in the film. Every time you think of Dark Knight, you think of Joker, you think of Joker scenes. Batman is just there to react. He is a side chick in his own film. Batman is a side chick in his own movie. But you compare that to Winter Soldier. First Avenger, he believes in America, he believes in the American way, and he is very much about USA, I believe in the government, and so forth. Winter Soldier, everything he knew gets turned on its head, and he realized that I have to now be an individual and start making decisions off my own back, because everything that I trusted isn't true, is all fake, and I now have to completely disregard the Boy Scouts psychology that I had in First Avenger, and I now have to now make difficult decisions and pretty much move on my own for the betterment of America, this country, and so forth, based on the truths that have been revealed to me. So in Winter Soldier is very much everything revolves around Steve Rogers, and Steve Rogers expands and evolves from what he was in First Avenger and Winter Soldier, and it's very much his film. Bro, that's not Batman's film. Dark Knight, that is not Batman's film. It's the Joker's film. So, and the issue that people have is, all because there's an amazing performance in a film doesn't make it a great film. Gangs of New York was not a very good film. It was very confusing, convoluted, and so forth. But Daniel Day-Lewis, in my opinion, gave one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. His performance as Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York was freaking incredible. But the film wasn't very good. So, great performance, but the film is not so good. Heath Ledger as Joker, superb. But the film's not good. The film is not good. I believe Gary Oldman in Lost in Space. I think it was a film with him and William Hurt. I think was in it. Okay, the film wasn't bad, but I was like, but Gary Oldman was really good in the film. So, all because you're good in the film doesn't make the film amazing. And the biggest issue with The Dark Knight is, this is what they always tell you in film is, show, don't tell. Don't tell me. Show it to me. In Heat, you saw exactly what Al Pacino's character was about. You saw exactly what drove him. You saw exactly what De Niro's character was about. You saw what drove him, and you saw the dichotomy between De Niro's character and Pacino's character. They didn't have to give you a speech. They didn't have to give you a huge soliloquy. They just told you. In Dark Knight, it's speech after speech after speech after speech. I'm like, come on. And at the end, that's cheesy. Guys, just picture this. A guy dressed as a bat is talking to a commissioner and saying to him, sometimes people deserve more. Sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded, called in. I was like, wait. There is a guy dressed as a bat talking to a commissioner and his son about morality. I'm sorry, that's weird. That's weird because, you see, in Tim Burton's film, Batman made a speech at the end of that film, but he wrote it as a note. Because Burton knew that it would be bloody stupid for Batman to come out and just give a huge long speech because he doesn't speak much. His lines are very minimal. So if he's to give a speech, here's a note, you read it. But I'm not going to read it because it would be stupid me dressed as a bat making a freaking speech. So Dark Knight is nowhere near the best comic book movie of all time. It isn't. It's a comic book. It is well made. It is very well made with some quality acting performances from Gary Oldman and definitely from your boy Heath Ledger. Some very good scenes and so forth. But as a whole, it's a film that tries too hard to be serious. It tries too hard to be developed. Because you see, that's why I love comparing this with Winter Soldier. In Dark Knight, it's trying so hard to be serious by giving people these massive speeches about morality. Winter Soldier, it is just serious because it allows the characters to breathe. It allows the story to breathe. There's no need for speeches. There's no need for long soliloquies. It's just telling you a very direct espionage story about deception, about backstabbing, and about pretty much not trusting people and how you can be backstabbed. So the way that Winter Soldier operates, for me, it comes across as a much more authentic and genuine, serious comic book film than The Dark Knight, which for me comes across as very pretentious and trying far too hard. And it really, because I told you, I was so hooked. I was so ready for The Dark Knight to be that amazing film. I was so ready. My excitement for The Dark Knight was huge. It was huge. So I so wanted it to succeed. And I remember the very first thing I said after leaving Dark Knight, the very first thing I said was, Batman isn't in it. And one last thing, Batman Returns. I remember watching Batman Returns when I was a child, when I was like really young. And I did like it because I was like, wait, Batman is hardly in this. But after watching Dark Knight and going back to Batman Returns, I was like, oh, no. He may not be in this as much as you want, but it's very much his film. And the world is very much him. And every time he appears, he makes an impact. On my laptop screen, my laptop screensaver is when you see Batman for the first time in Batman Returns, when he faces Selina Kyle. Because for me, that is the best Batman outfit. That costume was flipping amazing. Because again, see, I'm not just remembering things. All because you can do it doesn't mean that you have to do it. Him turning his head, cool, he can turn his head and so forth. But when you actually see it in action, it takes away from the mystique. It takes away from the mystery. Because the beauty of him not being able to turn his head and the cowl being fixed, he looks like a monster. He looks threatening. He looks different. So when you see him in Batman Returns, or you see him in Batman Begins, and he has the cowl that is just fully rooted to the rest of his body, it feels like if, okay, I'm not looking at a human being here. I'm looking at just a thing, specifically with in the dark, the right lighting, you're looking at something more freakish. But if you now make his head turn and so forth, and you're making him more human-like, it now removes away the mystique, and it just feels as if, oh, this is just a guy in a costume. You don't want a Batman that looks like a guy in a costume. You want a guy to be like, what is that? What is it? You know, like, what am I looking at? Hence why in Batman Begins, he looked far scarier, you know, far more threatening in Begins than he did in Dark Knight or Rises, man. So, is what it is. Tell me what you think, guys. Comment below. Am I right? Am I wrong? Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. I mean, what do you think about the points that I raised, man? You know, like that vid, and please remember, if you're new, subscribe.